And the example was, if there's an opportunity to invest the money and you don't have the emergency fund, then you cannot invest into the opportunity. What I mean by that is the stock market is at an all-time low here in the US. I don't know how it is in the UK or Europe, but here it's in an all-time low, which means this is the best opportunity to invest into it. So the key
It's on
here,
sale.
yeah, it's on sale right now. But if you haven't saved the money, or you haven't learned how to make more money, or you have not that emergency fund to just toss it in there, you are missing out. Welcome back, peeps. Welcome back to another episode. And I think today we should talk about money management. If you follow the news, and as of this recording, we're like mid-November now, we know that the inflation rate is at the all-time high. The interest rates is also at the all-time high for us in the US. I don't know how it is in the UK, but I thought we should talk about money management because I think it's essential for everyone to manage their money correctly. But in terms of our podcast, obviously, if you want to get to the million, get to be wealthy, be in the freedom, then you need to know how money works. And Monish, what do you think? What do you think of the entire topic here?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is definitely essential now more than ever. Although that this isn't for us in the UK, I don't think that I think at times in the past, inflation has been higher, but for a lot of people, especially myself and you, this is the highest we've ever seen. We've had historically low rates of 2-3% over the last 10-20 years or so. And now people are basically realizing that yes, your money is just getting eroded away, and we have to do certain things to ensure that we preserve our wealth, right? If we want to get to the millions and take ourselves on that journey towards wealth, that drive to wealth, we have to understand that however much we have right now is we have to be able to manage that now for when we get more, then to be able to manage that even better, right? So you think about it in the example of lottery winners. A lot of people think, if I just had a little bit more money, if I just had that pay rise. So for example, you're earning $1,000 a month, £1,000 or $1,000 a month. If you can't manage that, then how do you expect to manage 10,000 a month? So people think like, for example, lottery winners, right? So there's the statistics that most lottery winners actually end up worse off because they get so much money. They don't know how to manage it because they're so used to spending every penny that they make immediately. And, you get this living paycheck to paycheck, which unfortunately a lot of people do. And this is the whole point of the episode today, is to encourage you not to do that and explain why that is not a good idea. I mean, there's many reasons. Anyone can with a bit of common sense can realize that isn't a good idea for general security and things like that. But yeah, I mean, lottery winners, most of them, they spend all their winnings and then some, especially when buying items that maybe have a debt, have some part of it is debt as well, which means they have to service that debt, pay something monthly. For example, buying a house, you have to then pay the mortgage monthly. And they end up in more debt, they end up in a worse off position, and their net worth is negative.
That just shows, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so, you cannot manage what you do not monitor or measure. So money management involves monitoring and measuring your money and your wealth. Sorry, go on.
What would you say is the cause that lottery winners tend to be broke afterwards? What's the cause of this? What do you think?
The cause, I believe the cause would be, I mean, you can really just take it quite simply, right? So it's in almost exactly the same way as if you are to train yourself to every single time you wake up in the morning, you go for a shower and you brush your teeth. It's the same thing here, because for every single month of however many years they've been in the working, past 18 working, they have been living paycheck to paycheck, which means that there is too much month at the end of the money, basically. So, you get paid on the 1st, or you get paid on the 31st, or the last day of the month, last Friday of the month. And by the time you're in week 2, week 3 of that month, you are really sort of penny pinching. And, all those bills hit your bank account in the first sort of 5-10 days. And you are living paycheck to paycheck. You're probably spending more than what you earn month to month, and people are just so used to having the money come in and immediately go out, and pretty much all of it immediately go out. So whether that is 1 grand coming in and immediately going out, or whether that is 10 grand coming in, the habit is there, it's immediately going out again. And you've obviously heard about things like lifestyle creep, and I'll just briefly explain that if anyone hasn't heard of that. So that is where, say you get a pay rise, you generally then start to increase the cost of your lifestyle with that pay rise. Whereas, generally speaking, say you had a pay rise of 1,000, or say you had a pay rise of 100, right? So we'll use 100 to basically be analogous to 100%. So perhaps, 10 to 20 to 30% of that you're going to put on needs and wants. Mainly wants, actually, because you're living fine right now, right? Most people are. And then the rest you can use to either pay down debt, to invest in yourself or assets, or put it into an emergency fund, savings, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense for me. But for me,
what do you think the cause of it is? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so for me, I think the lottery winner, or the typical lottery winner, does not understand what money actually is. I had to learn it over the last, I think, 2 to 3 years, where I realized, okay, money is not important. This is what the rich say, right? Money is not important, but it's not important to become happy in that sense. Money is important as a tool. The more money you have, the more you can use this to create more wealth. And this is what the rich or the wealthy do. They use the money as a tool to either hire an employee to buy back time. They either buy assets to produce money while they're not on the site, aka a job or whatever. Or they want to park their money safely. And this is quote unquote safe because the watch market, for example, was a very well-known money parking option, which has also collapsed here in the US. I don't know how it is in Europe, but some of the watches that were worth 1.5 million are now worth only 700K only. But it's a loss of 50%. So as you can tell, nothing is really safe to park the money. But in that sense, I just think people who win in the lottery do not understand what money is actually for.
Exactly.
Because they think, okay, I'm gonna buy a car because I want to have a new car, nice luxury car. I want to have a bigger house because I feel like I want to have more space. And the wealthy don't look at it that way, I would say. As far as I talk to them, they buy exotic cars just because it's a money parking opportunity. It's not an investment. It's not really that they drive it all the time that loses value, but it's more like a collecting car or like a car collection kind of item. But I think this is like one of the things I noticed, that lottery winners do not understand what what money should be used for, and that makes them very vulnerable to, well, essentially lose all of it, because at the end they have to pay taxes, and at some point the money has to come back somehow. And if not, well then this is exactly what happened to most of them, right?
Yeah, I agree, and I think even if you were to take it on the, even if you were to argue, yeah, you know, you win the lottery, you buy all of these you buy these nice cars and these houses cash. There's still a maintenance cost to these things. To pretty much anything, there is a maintenance cost. I also want to touch on, the watch market. Even though certain watches may have dropped 50%, this is the thing with money and life in general, is that you got to take more of a long-term view, right? So if you took the view of 2 years, 3 years, as opposed to 10 years, 20 years, then so certain investments, you're going to think, wow, it's completely dropped, whether it's houses, cars, watches. But if you have the horizon of 10 years, a decade or more, then you realize that actually over that time, the market cycles, economical cycles, and all that, all of these sort of cycles that you have, and I encourage people to do a bit of research into that. And, those cycles, you realize that they, over the long term, essentially the down points in the market are higher than the previous down points. The peaks are higher also, yes. But that means that essentially, say you had an asset of £100 today, it dropped to £50, which was the lowest point in the market. The next lowest point is probably going to be 75 or 60 or something above 50, right?
Yeah.
So over the long term, it still does increase. And it's, at the end of the day, a lot of this is just to do with educating yourself, becoming financially literate, and putting in the research and putting in the practice, right? Like I said, but at the beginning, you cannot manage what you do not monitor or measure. You have to learn how to monitor and measure your money. You have to learn how to understand where it's all going, and not look at your bank account and be like, why have I got 2p in my bank account, or why am I in an overdraft, like so many people are, especially young people. They start their life off in debt because they basically go to university, take on a load of debt, and then they're forever servicing that debt because they don't actually understand how it all works and what debt is.
Can I interrupt you there for a sec?
Yeah, go for it.
How does that work in terms of university and cost in the UK? Do you guys have to pay for it, or is there like a refund kind of thing, or how does it work? Because I'm for those who are the first time here, welcome. I am from Germany, but I live in the US, so I have like the two different kind of education systems in front of me. So in Germany, you don't pay for university. However, not everyone is allowed to go to university because you need to have a certain degree in high school or trade schools.
Oh, wow.
And if you meet those criteria, then you are eligible to go to the university. It only costs maybe €500 for the whole year. And it's not a whole lot. It's just for signing up fee and whatever. I don't know how it's called. And then also for the books. And that's it. Here in the US, the costs are usually between $15,000 to $35,000 per semester, which is quite significant.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. Yeah. So in the UK, I think that rarely, if you're very, very good, you can get a scholarship, i.e. your education is free. Generally, you have to basically get a student loan. I think even the cheapest degrees are like £7,000 a year, maybe £9,000 a year. So yeah, it's a lot less than the US, but in both cases, you are ending up with a lot of debt. And I found out recently that the debt on student loans is very high. The cost of debt is like 10%, and it changes all the time and increases all the time, and compounding basically works against you if you have a student loan, unless you understand exactly what it is and have a plan to tackle it.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know how it works in the UK, so it's good to know. So I want to also chip in here, because since we're talking about student loan, I was thinking of, okay, so how do you actually start the process of getting wealthy? Is it saving money, get to know how to save money, then learn how to make money, then maybe learn how to invest the money? How do you think should you start? Should you start
Well, I
with?
think step one for anyone, especially if you have a family to feed and things like that, is build an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in liquid assets, to a certain extent. So, for example, say that your monthly spending is £1,000 a month, just to keep things easy. You want at least £3,000 to £6,000 either in cash in the bank or in liquid assets, i.e., that you can sell quickly that hold their wealth. So, if you were to say liquid assets are stocks, then I would encourage you to have actually double that, because you have to account for the fact that those stocks are quite volatile, or they can be volatile, and they could drop by, say, 50%. So you might want to put double that, but you could have that sort of money, 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses, so that essentially if your boss starts being a prick, you can say you have a runway to go and leave and find another job. Or if say you lost your job for any reason, you have a runway. Say for any reason, unfortunately, you become unable to work, then again you have a runway. So it really sort of gives you a backup plan. I would say that is definitely step number one, is building an emergency fund. Well, actually, step zero is learning about money and doing a little bit of maybe reading a couple of books. I mean, we may as well shout some of these out, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Don't know if you've read that one. If you haven't, then yeah, you should probably read it. There's a few other ones out there which I can't remember, but there's quite a few on money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, you can literally just put it into Google, just be like,
Yeah,
how
but
to manage money and things like that.
how do you build a fund though? Because the reason why I'm
Build an
asking is,
emergency fund.
yeah, so the reason why I'm asking is I've seen one of my old videos from like 2 years ago when I was talking about the same thing, but then I realized I don't agree with what I said 2 years ago, because I said you gotta save money first before you understand everything. Now I change it to you got to learn how to make money, because once you start making more money, then it's important to save money, versus you only can save so much. For example, if
True.
you are working, let's just say, okay, there's someone, we call him Jeff. Jeff is working on a minimum wage job, and just comes around, makes, let's just say, let's hard a number, $1,000. His living expenses, he lives in a with a couple of roommates. He pays $500 in rent, so he has left 500. Let's say he's cooking at home, using the bare minimum. It's only $200. So we have now used $700 and left is $300. But then he also needs to pay insurance, which, well, I'm doing this right now too. So it's about $250. So that makes it only $50 left, if I'm correct, right? So
Yeah,
you only
so,
have
okay.
$50 left to save. How much does it bring you to actually save $50? But what
Well,
if,
obviously, it's going to take you forever to save up 3 months worth of expenses,
yeah,
right?
exactly. So what if and this is where I'm coming at, where I say, okay, fuck the saving strategy and start learning how to make money, rather than selling items, flipping items. There are a lot of Gary Vee type of things out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
now I'm more in the standpoint of, okay, learn how to make money. That's way more important than saving money. But yeah, that's why I want to get your take on it. What do you think? Making money first,
So
or
I think,
saving money first?
perhaps we should sort of, I guess I would say, still step one is build an emergency fund, but within that step, I guess you have more steps, right? Number one is exactly understanding where every single penny comes in, how much comes into your bank account every month, and how much leaves. And basically, there's some costs which come up once a year or twice a year. So you want to get like you essentially want to just analyze your spending over the past, say, 6 months, 3 months, at least to the bare minimum the last month. And you understand exactly what is happening. You first of all, you need to understand, you have to measure what is going in and what is going out. Then only you can exactly tackle that. So obviously, if you want a gap between the income and the expenses. The bigger that gap, the more secure you're going to be, financially speaking. So there's two things, right? You can either increase the earning or you can decrease the spending. So a lot of people have unnecessary car payments and things like that, multiple cars, and things. So, that's a few. When you actually analyze it, then you will see what is necessary and what is a luxury. And then you say, oh, I'm buying so many clothes every single month. I haven't bought clothes in, I don't even know how long.
Same here.
Like, even this jumper I'm wearing is free from 2016, in fact. And it's 2022 right now.
Yeah, same here. See, that was my mom's birthday. My mom gave this me as a welcome to Germany gift. So.
Oh, wow. Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got this. This is actually, I don't think anyone can see, but this is actually that we got around Christmas time. They were giving it out in one of these central London stations. I think it was Victoria. And they were just giving this out from this brand, the drink, the alcohol drink, Southern Comfort. And they were just giving out these jumpers. So I grabbed one. And there you go, still going strong. But anyway, yeah, so once you actually analyze your income and expenses over a few months, you will actually see what's luxuries and what's necessities, and you'll have a better picture. So you can easily decrease the spending, or if you can at least see what is luxuries and basically try and cut those out. If, for example, there are no luxuries, and you really want to do both at the same time. You want to increase the income and you want to decrease the spending at the same time. So some tips on decreasing spending are obviously, like I just said, look at the spending that you're doing and see what you can cut out, and see if you can get things cheaper. See if you can, instead of shopping at shop at Walmart, right? I think Walmart's one of the cheaper ones. Or buy your stuff in bulk. Like, I would buy tissue paper in bulk from Costco, and I would buy like my tin foil. I bought tin foil, but I saw the tin foil 2 days ago when I was cooking some food in the oven, and I realized that tin foil we've had for maybe 4 years, because we bought such a fat roll that there's still so much left, and it's just crazy. Instead of buying it every however many months that normally people would buy it. So there's certain things that you can do to decrease that spending, but the main thing here is, before we get on to tips to increase earnings, do you have any other tips to decrease spending?
No, it's like I said, it's just about needs versus wants, and if you are not aware of what do you actually need, and I'm clear right now, you don't need much. You need food, you need shelter, and you need water. That's it. It's as silly as it sounds, but this is literally what you need.
And you don't need to eat steak every single day. Like, as much as we would love to do that.
I mean, I don't do it, but yeah. It's good food does cost money, and I think it's worth spending the money on good food, like organic stuff. But yeah, just don't. I wouldn't recommend eating out every day. You can cook at home, definitely. For example, or
definitely not. And you can cook in batches, right? So like, when I was living by myself, I would just basically batch cook a couple of dishes, maybe like 3-5 dishes on a Saturday, Sunday, last you for the week. You have some variety there. They're all healthy and homemade. And then just once or twice a week, you might cook some rice that would last you a couple of days. Cook the rice fresh, and the rest of the stuff just stays in the fridge, and it would last you that week. And then, I guess maybe once a month you go out to a restaurant, because this is the whole point of understanding what you're spending at the moment, then essentially implementing a budget, and having a gap between income and spending, putting some of that money towards various different things, investments, savings, and so forth. And when you actually have a budget, then it actually, although people think it restricts you, it actually gives you more freedom, because you know exactly how much I can spend every single month on basically play, right? You have a play budget as well. And you say, even if it is £1, £2 a month to start off with, for example, then when you go and you buy that chocolate bar for £1, £2, you really look at it and you think, this is my play budget, and you really appreciate it, and you think, you know, this is essentially my reward for doing the right thing and securing myself and my family financially, and having some maybe short-term loss for longer-term gain.
I agree.
And it goes back to that similar sort of thing that we were saying earlier, having a decade or two horizon rather than just two years or 3 years, right? So should we get on with it? Tips to increase earnings.
Yeah, I think that's a good way, because this is what I think starts with building wealth, is learn how to make money. So obviously there's a job,
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I would love to share a story with one of my friends. So he is a programmer, software engineer, and he saw the trend that everything is going to be very computerized, everything. And he was very interested in computers when I was in high school with him. So we went to the same high school, and he is very interested in this entire programming thing. He built websites and had a little side hustle going on, which I didn't know until much later, but it was interesting to see. And he saw the trend that everything is going to be like programming and software engineering and data analytics and big data. Now, if you look at the job descriptions and what they make, the entry-level earnings of a data analyst or a software engineer, they started at 150K. They don't necessarily go to a university. They have like certain courses, and then they can apply for those jobs. So first one is obviously a job, to have a high-paying job. I think this is a very important thing. Understand what jobs are trending, hop on the train, and just make those money bags, because it's just a phase, I would say. What's your thought on this?
Well, yes, jobs. Yeah, pretty much everyone has a job, and yeah, choosing a high-paying job can be helpful. Although, if you're currently not in a high-paying job, there is nothing stopping you at all from putting 1 hour, 2 hours a day, a week, whatever, some sort of time, a regular time to study towards some sort of course, which would then take you onto a higher-paying job. I will also say that people who change jobs, you can ask for a pay rise, right? You provide more value in the job than you get paid. Ask for a pay rise. And the people that actually change jobs, they earn, I think maybe 30% more by changing jobs to jobs every couple of years, rather than staying in the same job.
I've read that too. Yeah, I've read that too. It's also true. I have plenty of experience that actually shows this. Yes, you make more money when you switch the job, the employer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and of course, so you have your main job. Number two, I would say, then you can get a side hustle, right? I remember at one point in time I actually had 3 jobs, which is a bit much, but obviously made me a bit of money. This was when I was still studying. Well, I'm still studying. I'm always studying. But when I first started studying, towards essentially the equivalent of a master's degree, I had 3 jobs at that time. Some were better paying than others, but, got you a bit of money. And you can do, anyone can do a side hustle, delivering food, that's a very easy one that anyone can do. You just need a bike. Sometimes they even supply you the bike. Working at a pub in evenings, Friday, Saturday. A waiter, like some fairly basic jobs, right? That anyone can do. And if you do your job great, especially in that sort of service hospitality sort of industry, and you go at it with a smile, you might just get tips, and you might just get more. I know in America it's more, it's assumed that people tip, whereas in the UK it's not. You only really tip if you feel like you want to tip. A lot of people don't tip at all, or they never tip. But it just depends on essentially, if someone is very friendly with you, you probably are more inclined to tip. Some people out there just are like straight no tipping at all, ever. And I remember when I went to America, I was a bit shocked at that. Although I am a person that tips, and I generally do tip.
Oh really? You do?
Sometimes even before, yeah, I do. Yeah, sometimes even before I even started, I would put a tip down. Because I feel that money, the thing with money is, and this is another thing I guess about money management, is that if you try and hold on to it like this, and you really grip it, and you hold on to it tight, I found that money actually wants to flow. Money likes to flow, and you give and it comes back, rather than just hoarding it. I mean, don't get me wrong, at one point in time I was the hoarder, but now not anymore, because I realised that it didn't serve money, and if you tip, you get it back, you get better service, and you put a smile on someone's face. And let's face it, you and I both were probably in a better position than a lot of people in this world, and thank God that we are.
Yeah.
And we have that ability to go and tip, or to go and give money to a homeless person, or buy a homeless person some food and things like this,
Yeah. Yeah, and then the next one I would say is, if you haven't checked our one of our past episodes, content creation creates money. I feel content creation needs to be addressed here as well, as
definitely.
a side hustle for those who don't want to have flipping items like Gary Vee or like eBay shops owners or whatever. So if
that's another way, isn't it? Sell unwanted items. But with content creation, yes, but there's only one downside to that, is that you may not get that money immediately.
Correct, but you don't need to have money for it.
Yeah, true.
So so content creation, I've seen it now. I've seen people, because I have a European car meet page on Instagram, and so I'm interacting with a lot of theme page owners. All they do is literally just spend their whole day on Instagram, download those images from other accounts, tag them on their account, and that's basically what their content creation is. And then they just ask for promotion, or if you want to run any promotions, you can make quite a lot of money when you do this really full time. I don't do it. I just do it as my side kind of project. But I've seen people actually pay hundreds of dollars to be featured on their page. So
definitely.
And you have no expense. You have a phone, and you have
you already have a phone. You already have everything that you need to have, which is basically a phone and an internet connection. A phone or laptop and an internet connection.
Exactly. So
there's plenty of side hustles out there. There's plenty, and you know what? At the end of the day, you could do multiple. You could do content creation, as well as selling unwanted items, as well as approaching your neighbors and saying to them, what items do you have in your loft or your attic that you don't want? I will sell them for you, and we split the whatever money we get 50-50.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that would be it for building. I would say so increasing your emergency fund. That's what we actually still trying to talk about, right? So just realized this, but reflecting back on one of the videos I was talking about, the money thing from 2 years ago, I had also a little example, and the example was, if there is an opportunity to invest the money and you don't have the emergency fund, then you cannot invest into the opportunity. What I mean by that is the stock market is at an all-time low here in the US. I don't know how it is in the UK or Europe, but here it's in an all-time low, which means this is the best opportunity to invest into it. So the key
It's on
here,
sale.
yeah, it's on sale right now. But if you haven't saved the money, or you haven't learned how to make more money, or you have not that emergency fund to just toss it in there, you are missing out. And if you like it or not, most millionaires are being created in a downward facing economy. There was 2008 with the housing crisis. It's 2020, even 2001. Those are the times where the market was at the low, like very low, all-time low, and people who invested or had the money or the spare money or the emergency funds available to them, they used the money to purchase on a discounted price.
To build wealth, exactly. Yeah, and the thing is, look, yes, I would always encourage everyone to have an emergency fund. But if at this point in time, you're deciding, should I put money in an emergency fund or should I invest it? Well, that choice is up to you. And if you want to take the risk of essentially so you have the emergency fund for security. If you want to take the risk, then, by all means. If you also thought to yourself, actually, you know what, there's a happy medium. I could do both. I could split the money 50-50.
Yeah.
Or in some sort of proportion, maybe 70-30, either way. 70% into emergency fund, 70% into stocks or some sort of on-sale asset. Then, by all means. And in fact, you just have to understand the risks, right?
Yeah.
So, I've invested in assets where, it's taken a significant proportion of my cash available and, shit yourself a little bit, but then you get the cash flow from it. But it's a risk. It's everything in life is a risk, right? Put it this way, you're not going to get out of it alive.
Yeah.
And you just have to weigh up those pros and cons. What's your risk appetite like? Are you willing to, in fact, actually grow your risk appetite, which is something that, I've done, and I think everyone really does. Anyone that's on this sort of journey, they would sort of start growing that risk appetite, especially as they become more diversified in assets and income streams and things like that.
I agree. Just a quick side note here for everyone who's listening. We are not certified financial advisors. This is just for entertainment purposes only. Always do your own due diligence. And highly encourage you to do your research, do your due diligence before you pay for anything and invest in anything. We only talk about own experience, and so just FYI here, just making sure you guys know. But besides this, I think this is a very good episode, and I
agree.
I really hope you guys find some value into it, because it's building wealth starts with yourself, and you need to understand what money is, how does money work, and what money should be used for, not just for luxury items and whatnot, but real understanding. Building wealth is not living off luxury, but more so understanding what you can do with the money and how far it can bring you.
And increasing that gap between making that gap as big as possible between income and expenditure. Most people actually have a negative gap, unfortunately. But money management is essential. It is absolutely essential, and it's shocking that it's not taught in schools. And that's why we teach it here. And, hats off to anyone else in the world that's teaching this sort of stuff. It's absolutely essential. Everyone should learn this. And the younger you learn it at, the better. And, there's so many resources out in Google and in on YouTube, wherever. You can do it. You just put the time in, learn it, apply what you learn, and you're on your way.
So we are putting down the links for the books we recommended today and the show notes. Check them out. It's highly recommended. I read all of them, and And if you have any, just let us down below. Or if you are just listening on the podcast, leave us a review. It will help us tremendously for the algorithm to show other people our podcast.